and good afternoon. It is noon on Friday, and we are going to be talking about bandages and how bandages are really quite detrimental to your health. So hopefully you only use bandages from time to time when you have a little boo-boo or whatever. But if you're somebody that uses bandages a lot because you've got skin conditions and poor integrity of the skin and that kind of thing, you're going to want to pay attention. You're going to want to get a notepad, some paper, some pencils, so that you can make notes. So I'm going to give you brands that I want you to buy because these brands do not have these dangerous chemicals in them. Now, I don't know why the FDA, who is supposed to protect us, I don't know why they allow companies that are going to make products that we put transdermally on our skin. Our skin is broken. We've got a cut. We've got a surgery. We've got whatever we've got. And the bandage there has bad chemicals in it that are called forever chemicals. And the reason they're called forever chemicals is because they do not break down. And so this is really, really important. And we're going to talk about this today. And then I'm going to give you brands to avoid, brands that are better, and then brands that did not have any of these chemicals in them. So this is really going to be important if you use bandages. If you have grandchildren, if you have great-grandchildren that they always feel better when they've got a bandage on, then you're going to want to switch to these brands. So I always thought that a Band-Aid, and not that brand necessarily, but a bandage was always going to be good for you because it would protect the skin, no bacteria could get in, the skin could heal, and you'd go, on and live forever and all that kind of good stuff. But we find out from reading this particular article that that's just not so. Now, I stumbled over some of the things in this article because they kept referring to organic fluorine. Well, anything that is organic, it occurs in nature, and so, you occur in nature, and so it should be okay for you. But I did some research, and I found out that fluorine does not combine easily with any other element. You have to synthesize it. You have to do something with it in order to get it to do that way. It is just not found in nature. So this is from a PubMed article. It says the rarity of fluorine-containing biochemicals contrasts heavily with the large number of organofluorine molecules used in diverse branches of human industry, which illustrates the diverse functional value of fluorine in chemistry. Since the discovery of fluorocortisone in 1953, an entire industry has explored the use of fluorine in drugs and other bioactive agents. Organofluorine compounds have been used widely in pharmacology and in medicine. So these forever chemicals are in your medication. And so this is another reason why I'm a very proud senior citizen. I do not take any medications, thank you, Jesus. I do take a lot of supplements, and, I do try and eat healthy and sleep well and all those good kind of things. More than 20% of drugs in clinical trials contain the fluorine atom. 45% of small molecule drugs approved by the U.S. FDA in a 2018-2019 contained fluorine. Fluoridated chemicals are also widely used in agriculture. 16% of all launched pesticides contain fluorine, and this number goes up to 52% for agrochemicals. Now, I've studied agrochemicals because that's just I'm the geek, I do that. And most of the fluorine that comes from the wastewater treatment plants is what goes into the herbicides, the pesticides, all the agricultural products. Well, you're not going to eat that. I'm not going to eat that, okay? However, that fluoride comes from that same source that's in our water, and that's why we do not drink fluorinated water as much as we can stop doing that, okay, as much as we can help it. I do not use fluoride toothpaste. I use anti-fluoride or fluoride-free is what they call it, because fluoride is a neurotoxic chemical. So we want to make sure that we don't have that. However, bandages contain per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, called forever chemicals, and these are linked to endocrine disruption, thyroid disorders, infertility, and other health conditions, according to a recent consumer study. Now, there's a group called Mamavation, never heard of it before, but they're in partnership with the Environmental Health News, and they tested 40 bandages from 18 different brands to see whether they contained these forever chemicals. The lab, certified by the Environmental Protection Agency, found toxic levels of organic fluorine in 65% of the bandages tested, from 11 parts per million to 328 parts per million. Now, parts per million, when we do that, like we have a silver product, it's a liquid silver product, and it says that there are 20 parts per million. So for every 1 million drops of water, there's 20 drops of this liquid silver. So that's how you think of it, parts per million. You have 1 million units, whatever your units are, and then you have whatever the parts per million number is. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're looking at this and we're getting the lowest number of parts per million that we can get. All right. So the reason they're telling you that this is from the Environmental Protection Agency, this is a lab that they approve. So this is not some cockamamie lab out there that has conspiracy theorists and all this kind of stuff. This is an official government lab that we're all used to dealing with and we're used to trusting. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's kind of where we are there. 26% of the bandages tested, 26 of the 40 bandages tested contained organic fluorine above 10 parts per million, and 63% of the bandages marketed to people with black or brown skin tones tested positive for PFAS. Now, I didn't even know they did this, okay? I guess I'm a white girl. I don't need that. I just go and I get the bandage. But apparently, they're skin tone bandages for darker skinned people. And so if you are a darker skinned person, you've got olive skin, brown skin, black skin, they make bandages for those particular skin tones. And I understand why you would want that, because you want it to blend in and all of that. Well, those bandages that are skin toned, they have more of these forever chemicals in there. So you might want to pay attention if you've got darker skin color. So Terrence Collins of the Teresa Hines Professor of Green Chemistry and the Director of the Institute for Green Science at Carnegie Mellon University specifically reviewed the results. He considers 100 parts per million and even 10 parts per million to be a massively unacceptable amount of PFAS as these pertain to potential exposures from an adhesive bandage. Now, when they tested these bandages, they tested both the adhesive side, what you actually stick to your skin, and also the absorbent pad that's in the middle of the bandage, and they also contained these PFASs. So we don't want to do that. They are forever chemicals because the body cannot break them down. Nature cannot break them down, and even chemical solvents have a hard time breaking them down. It is a class of 12,000 widely used synthetic chemicals resistant to water, heat, and stains. All right. Because of these properties, PFAS are in numerous commercial and industrial products such as paint, plastics, waxes, cosmetics, medication, firefighting agents, dental floss. Now, who would put this in dental floss? I mean, you're flossing your teeth. How many of you floss your teeth and your gums bleed? Me? I do. Not every time, but sometimes. And so when you have that bleeding, that means that gum blood is coming out so things can go in. And so this dental floss has these forever chemicals on there. Carpets, and even more. They're called forever chemicals because they are persistent and do not break down, but instead accumulate in the humans, in environments, and in animals. So humans, that would be us, who are exposed to forever chemicals to contaminated food and water containing PFAS, and the inhalation from dust and fumes from consumer or industrial products. So this is how we get contaminated with this. The human fetus is exposed through the umbilical cord and the placenta, and babies can be exposed through breast milk. Now, I remember when I was studying It was a few years ago, when I was studying health conditions and all that kind of stuff. They said that they had tested the blood in the umbilical cord of newborns, and they had, I want to say, 500 different toxic chemicals in the bloodstream. So this is why we're sick, people, because we have an environment that has these chemicals in there. We breathe them, we eat them, we floss, we get them, all those kind of things. And so we're exposed to these every day. And this is why detoxification programs are so important, so that you can take care of whatever you have inhaled or ingested or worn or however it got in there. You can take care of it so that you're not taking these forever chemicals with you. According to the Green Science Policy Institute's, PFAS are added to adhesives such as those found in bandages to increase wettability and penetration of the substrate, which requires a stronger bond. Now, I know that when we look for bandages in our family, that we look for the waterproof bandages, right? We don't want to take it off to shower. We don't want to take it off to bathe. We don't want to, when we wash our hands, and the bandage comes off, right? So we look for that. Well, this family is going to do something different, because we're going to look for those brands that do not have any of these PFAS in there. It's very concerning to us that the bandage brands would have indications of PFAS forever chemicals based on how they are used on the top of open wounds and skin lacerations. This was said by Lee Sedidai, who is the author and editor-in-chief of Momovation. So that's what she says. How dare they put these forever chemicals in such a vulnerable product? So according to Momovation, bandages were purchased or donated between February 2022 and November 2022, February 2024, from Walmart, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, Amazon, and then some products even volunteered, some brands even volunteered their own products. The Environmental Agency certified lab tested the product's absorbent pad and the adhesive flaps. But because of limited funding, the bandages were tested in both places only if PFAS were detected. So to identify the PFAS molecules have a chain of linked carbon and fluorine atoms. That's why it's called organofluorine. And this is what I stumbled over, because anything made with carbon because carbon is what we're mostly made of, right? That's why when people say that they want a carbon neutral footprint, you got to think about that, because we're mostly made of carbon. So just think about that. Diamonds are made of carbon, right? So we know that. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the atom carbon, which is a bio element in a lot of ways, and it links to the fluorine. Fluorine does not link very easily with other biochemicals, as that PubMed article showed us. So if organic fluorine was detected in the sample, then the product contained PFAS. If the total fluorine was 10 parts per million or greater, scientists conducted further testing to determine the amount of organic fluorine it contained. Testing for organic fluorine can also capture other fluoropolymers, pharmaceuticals, and hydrofluorocarbon refrigerants, right? All of which are PFAS according to Momovation. Scott Belcher, who is the Associate Professor of the Center of Environment and Health Effects of PFAS in North Carolina State University, told Momovation that fluoropolymers such as fluorotetrafluoroethylene, commonly known as Teflon, all right, are extremely common forms of PFAS and would be contributing to the organic fluorine found in bandages. So the testing method that was used in these labs cannot directly identify a specific PFAS, such as the PTFE, which is the Teflon, right? However, testing for the total number of organic fluorines will account for all of the PFAS contaminants in the bandage, including Teflon. Now, it's hard for me to believe that Teflon might be in my bandage, but according to the lab, it could be. The testing method serves as a good spot check for consumers. The Momovation analysis tells us that PFAS compounds are in certain bandage products. The analysis don't tell us what those compounds are, and the adhesive bandage companies don't disclose what they are. So here there is a failure to be informed, right? I mean, I never in a million years would have considered that a bandage would be detrimental to my health. They're in hospitals, for Pete's sake. You know, they are not controlled. You can go to any grocery store, any dollar store, any store and buy a bandage. All right. We happen to have several at home. But you know what? I'm going to check the brands, because if they have a lot of these PFASs, we're throwing them away. I don't care. We're throwing these away. According to the analysis, the following products were found to contain more than 250 ppms of organic fluorines in the pad or the flap. So you want to throw these away, okay? Band-Aid Hour Tone Flexible Fabric BR45, same brand BR55, and same brand BR65. Now this is Band-Aid brand, and these are the color tones. So this is, I'm thinking brown 45, brown 55, brown 65, and I would think that would be light, middle, and darker color of the skin tone. So apparently, if you have those darker skin tones, those bandages made to conform to your skin tone have more PFAS, I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean, than any other bandage. Care Science Antibacterial Flexible Bandage has it. Equate Skin Tone Antibacterial Flexible Bandage, darkest shade. Up and Up Flexible Fabric Bandages found at Target. So all of those had 250 parts per million, which is a lot. The following contain more than 100 parts per million. This is Band-Aid Flexible Fabric Comfort Protection Bandage, Curad Assorted Bandages, Four-Sided Seal. I look for that four-sided seal. CVS Health C60, CVS Health C70, CVS Health C80 antibacterial bandages, Equate antibacterial bandages, Equate Skin Tone antibacterial bandages, and this one really surprised me. First Honey Manuka bandages. So we know that Manuka honey is a really good antibacterial. Did y'all know that? I knew that. There are bandages in the stores now that have Manuka honey on it. However, in addition to the Manuka honey, they also have these PSAFs. That's not good. That's just not good. Rite Aid bandages, antibacterial fabric adhesive, and Solimo flexible fabric adhesive bandages. So those are the worst of the worst. So if you have those, throw those away. Just throw them away because we don't need those. The Better bandage, all right, has less than 100 parts per million, okay? This is Band-Aid Water Block Tough Strips Waterproof Adhesive Bandages. Browndages bandages for brown skin, all one size. CVS General Health Fabric Hypoallergenic Bandages. Now, if you told me that something was hypoallergenic, I would say that that had been tested and that had been found to be non-contaminated with anything, because if you are allergic to things and you put things on your skin, right, then you're going to have a reaction. So you would think if it says hypoallergenic that it had been tested for this, but apparently not. CVS Health Waterproof Adhesive Bandages, CVS Health Waterproof Heavy Duty Antibacterial Bandages, and Delmed, I don't know if I said that right, Flexible Fabric Bandages, Dry Sea Thin Film Waterproof Dressing Pad with Wetness Indicator, and then Rite Aid Smart Flex Sterile Bandages. They're not sterile if they have these PSAFs in there. They're just not sterile because you are contaminating yourselves. The best bandages. Now, this is what you want to write down. This is what you want to look for. This is what you're going to order on Amazon, wherever you get your stuff. These are the brands that you want, okay? They did not test positive for the presence of fluorine in the bandage using the lab's 10 part per million cutoff. So if they have it in them, they have less than 10 parts per million, okay? So can't say that they have none, but if they have them, it's less than 10 parts per million, all right? 3M. Now, that cracks me up because we know that 3M is an adhesive company. We know that 3M is not necessarily a healthcare brand, right? Okay, so 3M microspore medical surgical tape, all-terrain neon kid bandages. So this is good for your grandbabies that always want a Band-Aid. Get them that. All-terrain is the brand. Neon kid bandages. Band-Aid Hello Kitty assorted adhesive bandages. Now, I'm just telling you, I'm not walking around with a Hello Kitty bandage. I hardly ever wear a bandage, but it's not going to be a Hello Kitty. I might do the neon, though. I just might do that. CVS Sterile Manuka Honey Sports Bandages. Febu, I've never heard of that brand, Febu, Organic Bamboo Strip Bandages. Patch Bamboo Bandages for kids with coconut oil. True Color Skin Tone Bandages, Diversity and Healing Olive. Same brand, dark brown. Same brand, black brown. Okay, so here, if you are a person of color and you want a bandage that blends with your skin, you want to get True Color brand because they have less than 10 parts per million on that. True Tone Skin Color Adhesive Bandages, dark brown. True Tone Adhesive Skin Bandages, brown. True Tone Skin Adhesive Bandages, olive. So True Tone and True Color, two different brands. Sounds the same, but it's not the same. Welly, W-E-L-L-Y, Good Vibes Bravery Bandages. Welly, Good Vibes Bravery. Never heard of this. I've never heard of this. And then Welly Waterproof Bravery Associated. I'm thinking about my husband. I think I'm going to get him some of these Welly Waterproof Bravery assorted waterproof bandages, okay? So these forever chemicals are linked to serious health problems. A growing body of research links forever chemicals to cancer, birth defects, liver and kidney disease, thyroid dysfunction, endocrine dysfunction, poor immune function, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disorders, and infertility. So what is a metabolic disorder? Obesity is a metabolic disorder. How many people do we see walking around every day that are too heavy, right? A lot. A lot. 2 out of every 3 is overweight. 1 out of every 3 is obese. So 2/3 of the population is not at a healthy weight. Could these endocrine disruptors be part of that? Diabetes is on the rise. Diabetes is a metabolic disease. Could these disruptors, these PFASs, could they be the cause of having these metabolic diseases such as diabetes and also infertility? We are seeing a lot of young people that are coming in that are unable to conceive. And so maybe it's because of the environment. Maybe it's because of these forever chemicals that, as you can see, they are in the innocuous products such as a bandage. I would never in a million years have thought that a bandage could be hazardous to my health. Many PFAS compounds have been identified as endocrine disruptors of hormone action. In tiny amounts in the body, hormones control what developing humans become and also maintain conditions of optimal functioning. So if you are not operating in an optimal function pattern, okay, you might want to look to these forever chemicals. What are you doing? What are you eating? What are you drinking? What kind of environment are you living in? So we know that the most toxic office environment is a dentist's office. We know that. They deal with heavy metals. They deal with all the chemicals that are very toxic. They deal with radiation. That is a very toxic environment. Also, trades are very toxic. Welding is very, very toxic, okay? Thank God we have welders. Thank God we have dentists. I'm not knocking those professions any whatsoever. But if you work in those, then you are at a higher level of exposure to these chemicals. So if you're having any of these disorders happening in your body, endocrine disorders, thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sex hormones, fertility, anything like that, you might look here. Some PFAS compounds are known to disrupt hormone action to correlate with impaired development, where exposed creatures become something different from what undisrupted nature intended. and with numerous chronic diseases. So this is talking about birth defects. This is also talking about what they're doing in the lab, what they're creating in the lab when they're exposing cells to these chemicals. In most cases, PFAS chemicals are aptly named forever chemicals because once you are contaminated, you will likely take PFAS to the grave. Testing of the immense family of PFAS compounds for endocrine disruption is woefully inadequate. The regulatory control of endocrine disruptors is currently pitiful. We need to consider all PFAS compounds as suspect endocrine disruptors. Now, you get endocrine disruptors when you have xenoestrogens, and we have xenoestrogens in our food, we have xenoestrogens in our dairy, we have xenoestrogens in our packaging, our plastics, and so we're exposed to that. So anything like that is an endocrine disruptor. That means the glands in your body, anything that makes a hormone, your pancreas, your adrenals, your thyroid, your parathyroid, your hypothalamus, your pituitary, your pineal gland, your testicles, your ovaries, all of those organs. If you have these chemicals in your body, then you can have disruption in any or all of those glands. So we don't want to do that. In a January 2023 study published in the Journal of Hazardous Materials, they found that PFAS in human cerebrospinal fluid and brain tissue suggested that these chemicals cross the blood-brain barrier and the blood cerebrospinal fluid barriers. This is important, right? Your spine carries all of the nerves in your body. Of course, they come from your head, right? Your brain. That goes from the brain, right? Blood-brain barrier, blood cerebrospinal fluid. So when you get those forever chemicals in there, you are going to be in trouble and your body is just not going to work correctly. The report for the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, using data from the National Health and Nutritional Examination Survey, found that 97% of Americans, 97%, so that's probably you, that's probably me, had PFAS in their blood, which can cross the placental barrier and accumulate in the growing fetus. In a 2022 analysis with the Environmental Working Group, they reviewed 40 studies to examine the presence of PFAS and their health effects in umbilical cord blood. They found PFAS in 30,000 samples over a 5-year period. Additionally, all 40 studies detected PFAS in cord blood. Out of the 40 studies, 16 found an association between PFAS exposure and cord blood to changes in vital body molecules known as cord blood lipids and harm to fetal and childhood development. At least 14 of the 40 studies found an association between PFAS and cord blood to an increased risk of health impacts later in life. So what does this mean? 97% of us already have these. So what we need to do is we need to regularly detox. And I'm not saying go down to the big box store and buy a box that says detox. I'm not saying go on Facebook or Google or anything like that and Google detox and do whatever recipe they tell you, because most of that's just garbage. I'm just going to tell you, as a health professional, most of that is just garbage. I'm going to tell you something else too. If you are contaminated, and 97% of us are, according to the study, if we are contaminated, our energy is going to be really low, and it takes a lot of energy in order to get these products out of our cells because they are forever, okay? And so what you want to do, if this is something that concerns you, you want to come see me or find a practitioner like me that can test you to see if you have these chemicals. I'm going to tell you 97%, the odds are that yes, you do. But the practitioner, me specifically, I can ask the body, how do we get rid of this? And the body's going to tell me. Most of the time, we're going to have to put you on a gut reset program because in most cases, because of the contamination, your gut and your brain, right, are not coordinated and they're not connected. And so you've got to get that restored before you can get any kind of detoxification going. And so it's not something that is just as easy as going down to the pharmacy and buying a box and taking the box and boom, you're good. It's not like that. They're called forever chemicals for a reason, right? It takes a special kind of chemistry to break them down, and you've got to find somebody who is practiced in that, who is educated in that, who is skilled in that, so they can help you rather than hurt you. A lot of times if you're detoxing by yourself, all you're doing is rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, and you're not doing anything good for you, and you feel worse than you felt before, and this is why. So you need a professional to guide you that's been trained to do that, but it is seriously important. Anything that can cross the blood-brain barrier, anything that can cross the cerebrospinal fluid barrier, you're going to have all kinds of nerve diseases like fibromyalgia, MS, can't think of any other one right off the top of my head, but those are the kind of things. We can have cognitive decline, we can have dementia, we can have all those things. And in fact, dementia is actually on the increase, and maybe it is because of these forever chemicals that we have in our body. So that's a lot. I hope you made notes and wrote down the best brands. I'm going to take my little report. I'm going to put it on the bathroom mirror. And when it's time to order bandages, we're going to take care of that. If we have any of the nasty, nasty bandages, they're going in the trash today. Okay. So I hope you guys made good notes. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, doing all the things that help Facebook know that we give you something that's valuable, because that's what we want to do. We want to educate the community so that you know what is best for you. And if you're like me, you probably didn't think twice before you bought a bandage. You either got the cheapest one or you got the one that's sealed on all four sides. That's what I do. Or if you've got darker skins, you may have got a dark, a skin tone complementary bandage. And why not? Except they have these forever chemicals in there. So I'll leave you with that. It is the weekend. Relax, refresh, rejuvenate, restore, and I'll see you next Friday.